Hello everyone, Ian here. Welcome back to another episode of Scenario 95, the podcast where each episode, Daniel and I make predictions about the future and we try and convince the other person that the prediction has exactly a 5% chance of happening. I hope you enjoy. Okay, now we are live, Daniel.
We're live. We're here. Yeah, we were just discussing the picks for this week.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be honest. I'm not 100% sure how you'll feel about my two. My second one's very esoteric. I did run it past a few people beforehand, and that they did think it was interesting. But yeah, I'll be interested to hear what you think. I think you might be a little bit taken aback.
Is this something sexual?
Is it? No. Let's see. Listen, if you really stretch it far, there's some way it could be, but it's not.
Like everything.
Like everything, yeah. I'll give you a hint. It involves oil.
Oil. Ooh. Wow.
Hello.
So this isn't another like Tesla car electric thing. These are sensual oils. These are massage oils.
No, it does have a body part in it, but they are not sensual.
Oh,
Wait,
the plot thickens.
No, I was actually also quite I was quite butthurt this week.
Speaking of sexual.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think I mentioned a while ago there was this prediction I really wanted to make, and it was all about. I thought there would be a Formula One like league where the predominant technology is hydrogen. And I totally thought it was a great idea. I ran it by a bunch of people and they thought it was interesting. I ran it by someone who even used to work in the F1, and he said there's no way in hell that that's a 5% chance. It's way lower. So in my head, I'm like, this is the one. This is great. And then I finally started to actually research it, and it turns out it's coming just in 2023 instead of my prediction was going to be by 2023. So
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Your predictions seem to be very like car focused, which is funny. I didn't realize you'd have so many opinions about cars. But likewise, I think I'm starting to see a running theme with my predictions as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, what's your theme?
The two themes I can think of are pop culture and food. And it's probably because I am just a large consumer in pop culture and food.
Well, yeah, you haven't had any food ones yet, so I'm guessing two food ones this week then. So I'm keen to hear them. So this is interesting. I think this is the first out of two episodes, we haven't actually discussed our predictions beforehand. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah. Here's my prediction. By 2025, Starbucks will offer a milk menu. What am I saying? They already do that. Don't they offer like a proper milk menu? Like a proper, like every milk. What milk do you want? There is no normal. There is no normal milk. Like, now the default setting is just milk, right? But in the future, at a Starbucks, if you say like one cappuccino, they won't just make it for you. There'll be like a pause, and they'll be like, complete your order, sir. And I'll be like, oh yeah, right, foolish me. I need to tell you what milk I want. And then...
Right. So,
and then I say...
How many milks do you foresee?
How many milks? Well, let's go through it. Obviously, normal full cream, people want half and half in the US. Skim, so let's go oat milk, almond milk, rice milk. What other milks am I missing? Cashew milk? Is cashew milk a thing? I think cashew milk is a thing.
I think goat's milk.
Goat's milk, let's take it. Buffalo milk. Essentially, I just think that the milk game will expand in a big way in the next 5 years. And that is, again, because I think like vegetarianism is really growing. More and more people are becoming vegetarian and vegan. I've noticed it in my flat now already. So I live with a few other people. And in the past 2 years, I think our milk consumption, I would say about 50 to 60 to 70% of it has gone across from normal milk to what is like rice milk, oat milk, almond milk. And I like to think that my flat is like a microcosm of the entire world.
Yeah, the classic uni students of Denmark.
Exactly. We do really represent everybody. Yeah.
Right, yeah. No, they definitely already have at least most of the milks you mentioned there, I think with the exception of buffalo and goat's milk.
Yes, but right now the default setting is, like, if you just say cappuccino, they'll say, okay, and they'll make it. What I think is by 2025, like, you can't just say cappuccino. You have to be very specific.
And that'll, like, be written into the training manual. Like, inductions will say, like, don't forget to ask for milk. You might offend someone.
Exactly.
Sort of thing.
Exactly. So, yeah, a much bigger emphasis on this whole milk thing. That's what I think. Because it could be a point of differentiation, right, between the different big players. Like, I hate McDonald's coffee. They don't even consider what milk I want. They just made the coffee. Whereas Starbucks, you know what I like about Starbucks? They ask me what milk I want. They even tell me the different milk. And, as consumer preferences get more nuanced within this space, people will have all these crazy things. Give me 50% oat milk and 50% rice milk. That's what I want. That's my coffee of dreams.
Right. I gotta admit, I think I'm a sell on this one. I think, like they do that enough that, like, I can't imagine anyone being offended by it as it is unless people were offended by, assuming that they weren't vegan or assuming that someone was vegan. Like, I can't see that erupting in the next while.
Yeah, so I think the way I think about this is that veganism is, like, growing, and so is vegetarianism, so that by 2025, it will be a sizable amount of the population will have these sort of preferences for, like, alternative milks.
About 60 to 70% of the population as deemed by your fridge.
Yeah, exactly. And consequently, it will be sort of dumb for them not to ask, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, there are so many different types of car. There are so many different types of car. If I say I would like a car, they're not just going to go and get me a car. They're going to be like, what car? I need more details here.
Well, like,
that's the market.
From cars.
That's the market we're going towards. I'm just trying to put it in a way that you'll understand because you are the car guy.
I'm the car man, Dan. I think what I'm also really curious about is, so you've got the fridge of the future, right? What the hell else is in there? Like, what else are we going to see in the next 5 years? What's going to take over?
Yeah, what else is in that fridge? Oh my
We're
God.
already at that point of the podcast.
I didn't realize we'd get to this point this quick. What is that? There's a lot of hummus, a lot of, like, chili, like, ground down oily chili sauce, a lot of different sauces. We're talking, like, way beyond, like, ketchup. We're talking about these, like, way beyond, like, ketchup and sriracha. We are going deep into, like, hoisin sauce, but from, like, a particular region. So we're very into sauces. So I think sauces could also be... I'm big on sauces. I'm really long on sauces.
Long on sauces for the future.
Yeah.
Where should I invest? Condiments.
Yeah, exactly. The condiment game in the next few years, I expect, will be absolutely surging.
Fuck, that's not even 5%. That's 95%. It's happening.
Yeah, I'm witnessing it. It's in front of my eyes. But yeah, so back to it. 5% chance that Starbucks, I'm picking Starbucks, but it's going to be really across the whole coffee making industry, that if you ask for a coffee, you're not just going to get an order. They are going to be trained to ask for what type of milk. That is really it. And I give that about a 5% chance of happening by 2025.
Yeah, actually, when you phrase it like that, I guess it's not crazy. Maybe. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm with you, actually. It probably is about 5%. Oh, yeah. Yep, I'll go 5%.
Oh, wow. I can't believe I sold you on this idea. But at the end of the day...
Yeah, I was not convinced to begin with. But
at the end of the day, it only takes like a slight change in like policy, company policy, right? Which is ask for the milk. Don't assume the milk.
Don't assume the milk.
Which is like, for too long, have Starbucks been assuming the milk people want? Don't you ever hate it when you order a milk, it's like a coffee at Starbucks, and you just start drinking it, and you're like, they gave me almond milk. Those bastards. They assumed my milk.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm going to be honest. If they assumed I wanted almond milk, then I'd be a bit concerned. If they assumed I just want normal milk, like full cream, like the normal stuff, I think I wouldn't think twice about it. I order long blacks though, so I don't actually have any
there we go.
Any horse in this race.
Yeah, true. I knew you were going to get that in there somehow.
But yeah, it's just that's the thing about long black drinkers. It's always you're mere moments away from hearing about it at all times. There's got to be brace for it.
Yeah, and also, just milk recently has been a big revelation for me, because I think I've noticed that my skin improves when I don't drink milk. So like, I'm trying to convert. Like, listen up, listeners. Don't just cut out milk for like a week, and just look at your glowing skin at the end of that week. And thank me. You can thank me. Our website will be up and running soon. You can we'll take donations. So if you're a model and all of a sudden you're getting a lot more work, just shoot me an email, maybe some Bitcoin, and I'll be happy.
Should we move on then, or have you got any other skincare tips?
Other skincare tips include
no,
don't do what I do, which is have 42-degree showers. I'm in that habit now, and I can't get out of that habit, and it's going to be the death of me. Essentially,
that's actually bad for your skin?
Yeah, you should go for 39, 38, I believe. Cold showers is better. Hot showers dehydrates your skin. But the problem is I'm so used to hot showers, going down to a 38, it's like I'm, swimming in the Antarctic or something. It is so cold. You don't want lukewarm water on your skin. You want that hot, steamy vibe. And it is a vibe.
Jesus. Hey, I thought I was the one with the non-sexual prediction.
Well, anyway, so that's my first prediction. I think it's a 5%er.
Okay. Sweet. So, I guess, my first prediction then. So, I think there is a 5% chance that Nintendo will release a game on the PS5 or Xbox Series X. Okay.
So this is one of these gaming cross-platform things. So really the unlikely thing is the fact that Nintendo would be willing to launch one of their games onto this PlayStation or Xbox.
Yeah. So it was, I believe it was 2016 or something like that. The CEO of the company said, we will never create a Nintendo game for any other platform. And the major change happened, I think it must have been 4 years ago now. I guess it was kicked off by this Pokemon Go, which is partially owned by Nintendo, but isn't a Nintendo game. It was made by Niantic mainly. But yeah, after that was quite successful, they then released a few phone games, which is something they claimed that they would quite literally never do. My prediction is there's a chance that they will actually end up creating a game for the next generation consoles that aren't Nintendo, which is something they said they'd never do.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's a question of profitability then, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, I think it's also brand, right? Because I think the notion at the moment is Nintendo does have a bunch of genuinely very diehard followers, and like Mario can only be played on Nintendo consoles and I guess phones now, but like the phone games are very stripped back. Like if you want the full Mario experience, you have to buy a Nintendo console. So I did actually delve a little bit into the numbers here to see where Nintendo actually does get its revenue. On their most recent console, the Switch, they've sold 55 million units of hardware, which is roughly 22 billion US dollars. And for software, they've sold 356 million units, which is to the tune of about 25 billion US dollars. So if we're talking pure revenue, it's not like hardware is significantly ahead of software or software is significantly ahead. But obviously the overheads for hardware is a lot higher.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the profit is probably coming from the software then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my initial reaction to that is, in all likelihood, it could be a lot higher just on a profitability thing. And it sort of depends on how the sales work on these different consoles, right? So on these new generation consoles, if one of them dominates and it isn't the Nintendo console, then the profit that they could attain from servicing that console would just be really high, right? And consequently, then the probability that they enter that console software market is a lot higher, right?
I think if you look at sales of their previous consoles, you can actually get a pretty good gauge of how likely that is. So historically, the best-selling Nintendo consoles has been the Wii by like a pretty large margin, followed immediately by the Wii U, which was just a massive flop. And during the Wii U era, it seemed like a lot of analysts were very, very keen for them to get into creating software for other platforms because they thought most of the profit will then just be in selling software to other platforms. But yeah, what happened then was the Switch came around, which was immediately after the Wii U, and the Switch has been doing exceptionally well. So I don't know. I think like there is proof that they have been in a time of decreased sales of consoles and games, and they did, stay to the course.
I guess it all depends on sales of the latest consoles, right? That's what I would say. And I'm not sure. Does Nintendo have a new console coming out anytime soon?
Yeah, so theirs is normally staggered a little bit from the PlayStation and the Xboxes. But yeah, they just follow quite a different strategy. So normally the PlayStation and the Xbox, they've got very hardcore hardware. And it's really just meant to play things on like the highest resolution with like HDR and like very high frame rates and everything. And Nintendo's never really chased that. They prefer basically gimmicks, right? Like Nintendo Wii was the first one to have like the motion control. And the Switch has got the gimmick where it's like, it's a handheld console you can take anywhere, but then it's also like the one at home.
Their games are sort of designed with lower graphics intensity in mind, right?
100%, yeah.
So that could potentially really dissuade them from entering that market because it might be a lot of effort in terms of shifting over, right? Like if they want to fully use what the next PlayStation or Xbox is offering, then they'd be designing some software that couldn't even be played on their own platforms, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was one of the things I was a little bit worried about. Like, if they were to release a game, I guess, one, what game would it be? And then two, would they also release it on their own console? And would it make sense for them to do that? And yeah, I think the only thing that makes sense is they would have to have a game which is basic enough that could be played on any of the consoles. But I think a lot of games, like, if you were to increase the graphics in Mario Kart or something like that, like, it doesn't actually make it a materially better game, right?
No.
It's I guess a good comparison would be Rocket League. I think it basically doesn't matter what console you play that on. The experience is roughly the same. So I suspect they would probably have to just do something very similar to that.
Yeah, I agree. So, have you convinced me? I think you have, Daniel. I think it is about 5% and maybe a bit lower, if I'm honest.
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
reason why is because I think that, and I think we touched upon it a bit here, but Nintendo are going for like a bit of a lighter gaming segment, or like the sort of customer segment. And those like the PlayStation and the Xbox, they're going another way, right? They're going for the much heavier. They're competing on that like top of the range, best graphics cards. So I think there is like
Yeah.
those two markets are sort of, I guess, diverging.
I think the consoles do, but I think the main games that are being sold, I'm not that convinced about. Like, I don't know if it's the most well-selling game this year, but one that's exceeded all expectations is this one called Fall Guys, and it's just exceptionally basic. It's basically, I think it's about 60 people doing something sort of similar to a Wipeout style course, and it's just happening live. That doesn't require any special hardware or anything like that, and that came out on the PlayStation 4, and that's been very successful. So I think lighter games can still be very successful on these
Okay.
consoles.
So that's a nice little rebuttal then, I guess, to what I was saying. I guess the other thing as well is, are they incentivized then to issue these games because it removes the need for having a Nintendo platform? They want people hooked on the Nintendo world. So it seems like it would be a bit off strategy.
Totally agree. So I guess as a side thing, do you like know of like any or many Nintendo games? Like, if they were to release one, do you have any like hunches as to what it would be?
Absolutely none.
Sweet. So should we jump into your next one now?
My next prediction is I think that there is about a 5% chance that a corona-related discovery will lead to a new herb craze. And what do I mean? I mean that somewhere, some medical journal will publish something about the effects of, let's say, ginger on sort of soothing the symptoms of corona, and consequently we will have shortages of ginger, we will have people talking about the remarkable properties of ginger, and so on and so forth. Really, it's hard to measure this prediction. I guess the way you'd measure it is you would say that on Google Trends is really a benchmark for how much people are searching for I guess that item, you would then expect a 50% rise. And that will be, I guess, over next year. So at some point next year, some herb will come into the public imagination.
Right. Interesting that you say 50%, because I imagine that's a very low benchmark, isn't it? Because it's like, yeah, like how much are people searching for herbs at the moment, right? There's naturopaths, and then there's, I don't know, people that go to naturopaths. Like, when was the last time you searched for a herb?
It's caveated on the fact that it needs to be a corona-related discovery. So there has to be two things. There needs to be the publication or corona-related discovery, and then that 50% increase in search.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of interesting. I wonder.
Let's just talk about food-related crazes. So we've had quinoa, we've had avocado, turmeric, cumin. Essentially, you know, these are the types of things I'm talking about. But I'm going to stick with it. I think it's going to be a herb.
Is a herb just like a rooted vegetable or something, or what's
I'm
actually
glad you asked what a herb is. A herb, Daniel, is any plant with leaves, seeds, or flowers used for flavoring food, medicine, or perfume. I think it's a very vague term. So it's almost just any plant then. Because what plants don't have leaves, seeds, or flowers? Anyway,
Yeah.
we're getting too into it now, but you know what I mean. Corona-related discovery. People are going to be putting paprika all over their bloody sandwiches because they know it's going to save them. And given just the state of like where alternative medicine is these days, it's not surprising to me that if one little journal article somewhere says, hey, eat a chili every day and you won't get corona. If something like that pops up, we'll just go viral among certain people, and all of a sudden everyone's going to be crying in the morning as they're eating a chili.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about this one, I guess. My inclination is that there's probably higher than a 5% chance, because I feel like for almost everything, people say that, like, what, vitamin C or, like, something like that will help, so eat lots of oranges. Like, yeah, my inclination is to say there's a higher chance, but I'm not too well versed in herbs, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
Not like you, the herb expert.
and, and to be specific, any sort of like indirect thing like that. So if they say, get more vitamin C, that will help corona, that wouldn't count. The medical journal or the article needs to specifically mention one type of herb. Now, I think it's about 5%, and I think on one hand you could say it's more likely, but I think the reason why it's about 5% sounds right is because we've now operated with sort of corona restrictions for at least 6 months, and we haven't had anything yet. And that was maybe during the peak, like, panic around it. And I feel like in that peak panic period is when those crazy ideas come up, where they say, everybody, put this on your toast and you're going to be fine. And, like, that's when people do that stuff right at the beginning. And it hasn't happened now. I think we're all becoming sort of pandemic experts with how to handle the situation. And I don't think people are going to fall for a trick like this, which is why it's only a 7% chance.
5%, right?
5% chance. Oh my God. Where did I get 7 from?
It's so thoroughly calculated. You accidentally said the exact figure, right?
Yeah.
Too meticulous for your own good. No, okay. No, that's actually a really good point. I guess I didn't think about it that way. Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm really shocked it hasn't happened already. I'd still put it at above a 5% chance, but yeah, not much, I think. Yeah. Single digits.
Single digits. And just a public service announcement to all our listeners: wear masks, wash hands, and then if there is a herb that works, feel free to give it a go, but it might not be the best thing to do.
I'm glad that people have you and have us.
I feel like we just need to cover our bases here. Seek professional medical help before consulting
Jesus.
This podcast.
We are not health professionals, and I can't stress that enough.
Not even close. Yeah. I'm an unhealth professional.
I live with a doctor, so that's like a couple of points in my favour, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's my second prediction. What is your last one?
Okay, so just mentally preparing you, it's a bit esoteric. I think seaweed will become Indonesia's largest agricultural export by dollar value by 2025.
Oh my God, tell me more.
Yeah, well, I'll just lay out the top exports at the moment. So the top export for Indonesia at the moment is palm oil at $10.4 billion each year.
Yep.
Second is rubber at $5.7 billion. So it's such a large drop-off, like I kind of just threw out every other option. Like I was only comparing seaweed to palm oil.
Yep.
So seaweed exports are around the range of 210 million at the moment. So a huge amount.
Okay, wow. So 50x.
50, yeah. That's some quick maths for you. Yeah. I think this one is very unlikely from that standpoint, but I think they actually do stand a chance. So one of the main reasons for that is the seaweed market is meant to double in size between now and 2025. So at the moment it's at $16 billion, and I expect that it will go up to $30 billion. Not I will expect. I've read some people who expect that.
I expect,
yeah, just me. I did, yeah,
I
read
fridge?
it once. Yeah.
Have you projected the seaweed consumption in your fridge?
Oh my God.
Extrapolating from my fridge, I see a 2x.
Extrapolating from conversations with co-workers. So then, yeah, it's probably worth mentioning what we actually use seaweed for, because it is just quite esoteric. So the main uses are it's present in human food, cosmetics, fertilizers, in industrial gums and chemicals.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's also got some medicinal and industrial uses. But one of the more exciting things that's come out about seaweed in fairly recent times is that it can reduce methane emissions from cows by about 80%.
Oh, wow. That's obviously good.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest arguments for not only the amount of seaweed being consumed growing drastically, but also a very good reason why governments might get involved and why it actually might be heavily subsidized, or like why more than just a couple of people have like a very vested interest in this genuinely happening.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, methane emissions from agriculture is a huge amount of greenhouse gas output. So in Australia, about 10% of the greenhouse gas output is from cows.
Yeah.
So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, huge.
Huge. It really is. And then to be able to cut that down by 80% would be a massive thing. So yeah, it definitely sounds like it's growing, but hey, if it is only doubling, okay, so Indonesia 2x's, you still need to find the other 25x.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think that Indonesia is like in particular very, very well suited to be probably the main beneficiary of that massive change.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the main reasons for that is what do you need to be good at seaweed farming, right? So you need a lot of coast. I guess, yeah, other properties of Indonesia which are well suited for it is it's got cheap labor. The startup costs are low.
Yeah.
Seaweed farming is kind of interesting because the expertise is not as widespread as a lot of other types of farming. And they do actually have a fair bit of existing expertise in it.
Yeah.
And one of the other quite key things is the tourism industry there, which in 2016 was worth $16.3 billion, has obviously just completely disappeared in the past few months. And there are a lot of people there who are in low income brackets who do have the skills and like the land, I guess, to actually do seaweed farming. So it makes a lot of sense for there to be a push, like a large government initiative to push a lot of people towards seaweed farming, partially to fill that gap from the tourism industry.
Yeah, and I guess another thing would be the palm oil as well as a sort of, people say it's quite an unsustainable industry with a lot of backburning and things like that. So
yeah,
it would be good if there was a bit of a switch to something more sustainable, and seaweed really does seem to be that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was actually kind of interesting though, because if you look at the growth numbers of palm oil, so it seemed to be going up roughly 15% year on year from like 2004 to 2014. And I think there was a major push around then to lower palm oil in a lot of products. So interestingly enough, palm oil is still growing in terms of how much they're exporting, but it stopped accelerating. So now it's closer to 4% year on year, and it looks like it's dropping even more than that.
Yeah,
so,
it's tapering off.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the low side. I just do not think it will be Indonesia's top export, just purely because those are some big growth numbers that it needs to hit. What was your timeline for this, by the way? I guess I can't make that prediction without you telling me the timeline.
Yeah, a bit keen of you. Yes, I said before 2025.
And again, I don't think that's feasible. So I'll go the low side on that. I'd say it's almost close to 0% chance, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. I think, yeah, I obviously believe it's much closer to 5%. Yeah, so to clarify, like from running some basic numbers, if they get 130% growth year on year, they will exceed the mark. And like, I think that's very possible given the type of industry it is. Like, the upfront costs of actually starting one of these things is absolutely bugger all, and it's like it's common materials as well. So they've got the expertise, they've got the materials, they've got the labor force, and they've got the desire or like the need to actually move into something different.
Yeah.
So
and
yeah.
I would counter back and say 130% growth in agriculture seems incredibly tough, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's definitely hard, but like,
yeah,
I think given the right incentives, it would happen. And I think there's a pretty good chance that'll happen.
Yeah, no, let's see what happens. Thank you for that prediction, Daniel. I'm so glad that on the second episode of this show, we managed to really dig into seaweed, which is
Well, yeah, no, it's kind of interesting doing a bunch of research for that one because it's yeah, quite a strange thing to think about, you know, to fall into the seaweed market.
Yeah. No, certainly our predictions are going all over the place. So to recap, what were our predictions, Daniel?
by 2025, Starbucks isn't going to presume what milk you want. They're always going to ask.
Yes.
Yeah, my first was Nintendo will release a game on a next generation console, which is not a Nintendo one. Your next one was then Corona's going to kick off a new herb craze, as defined by a 50% boost in Google Trends. And then my final one was seaweed will become Indonesia's largest agricultural export before 2025.